Mr. Mark Hopkins of the National Space Society. And as you know, he has worked with Dr. Abdul Kalaam for many years. So,
all right, I'm Mark Hopkins. I'm CEO of the National Space Society Emeritus. And my talk today is on space settlement and a prosperous, hopeful future for all of humanity. Okay, if I can figure out how to do this. All right. National Space Society. All right. National Space Society is the world's leading organization that advocates space settlement. And this has been true since 1975. In 1987, we were created by a merger of the L5 Society and the National Space Institute. And we've had a number of important people which have been involved with us over the years. And these include Wernher von Braun, who was the first man to fly a mission to the moon. He was the pilot on that mission. Also, George Whitesides. He was our executive director and then left us in 2009 to become the chief of staff at NASA and is now the head of Virgin Galactic, which is the world's leading space tourism organization. Laurie Garver, another executive director, she went on to become #2 at NASA and then general manager of the Airline Pilots Association, which is the big union for pilots in the United States and Canada. And Scott Pace, who's interesting, he was our executive director, our executive vice president for a number of years. That was our position for policy. And now he is the chief of staff of the Space Council. That is led by the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, and it has as its members representatives, or the leaders of all the major agencies in Washington which deal with space, which include NASA and the Defense Department. All right. Trying to figure out how this works. Why isn't this working? That one? Okay. All right. The goal and strategy of the organization. Space settlement and the use of vast resources of space for the dramatic betterment of humanity. That is our long-term goal. And we have, in our strategic plan, we push certain key ideas in order to promote this. Space settlement per se, given the nature of our goal, and also commercial space, because we need jobs in space in order to do space settlement. Lunar resources, asteroid resources, because we need to live off the land and use the resources in space rather than bringing everything up from Earth. And space solar power, because we need cheap energy in space. And in addition, we can take that energy and bring it down to Earth, which is what KALAM was particularly interested in. Now, here's the fundamental problem that humanity has. We're poor. And many of our problems are derived from this fact. This is what most humans have a per capita income, which is a factor of 25 below what it is in the United States and other developed countries. And that's most humans, not poor humans. The bottom quarter of the income distribution worldwide has an income which is a factor of 100 below what it is in the United States today. And over the long run, humanity needs to erase this poverty and bring standard of living of everybody up to, say, what it is in the United States today, as well as increase what it is in the United States today for developed countries, and deal with the fact that the world population is increasing, and developed nations also want to get more income. Now, where are we going to get to the resources to do this? And do it in a way which is environmentally benign. The public has been told, and there's another associated problem, and this is that Americans are very pessimistic about the future as compared to what they were in the past. Americans are basically a very optimistic people. We have believed since beginning in early colonial times in what's called the American dream, namely that each generation will be better off than the previous one, so that your kids will be better off than you, your grandkids will be better off than them, etc. But polls show that for the first time in history, Americans no longer believe this to be true. And the level of pessimism in European countries is much worse. Now, why is this? This is because we've been told over and over again by various pundits that the Earth's resources are finite, which is true, and that we're beginning to get close to these resource constraints. And as a consequence, the environment's deteriorating, and things are going to be worse off in the future due to resource scarcity. Now, if that's true for America and European countries, you can imagine what the situation would be for poor countries, relatively speaking, compared to America, such as India. If resources become scarce, the richer countries are going to buy up these resources, and they will have a lower standard of living, but they will survive. Things in the developed world, less developed world, will be a lot worse, a lot worse. However, there's a solution. The vast majority of the resources of the solar system do not lie on the Earth, but rather lie in space. One way to grasp the amount of material resources is to ask the following question. Suppose we were to use some of these material resources to build land area in space in the form of O'Neill space settlements. What is an O'Neill space settlement? They are large cylinders, maybe 20 kilometers long, a few kilometers wide. They're cylindrical shells, and you spin these so as to get artificial gravity on the inside. And not a very good focus, but you spin them so that you can walk around on the inside. You have 1g gravity, Earth normal gravity, if you spin it at the right speed. You make an arrangement of mirrors and windows to bring in sunlight. You fill them with Earth normal air, and you contour the inside to make it basically land area with trees and streams and make it a nice place to live. Here's another example. Okay, question. If you build a lot of these, you're actually building really land area in space. So how much land area could you build if you were to use just what? All right, is this better? And now I can actually watch my slides, which is an improvement. Okay, so how much land area can you build? The asteroids have enough material of the right size, of the right kind, so that you can build O'Neill space settlements, a lot of them. So the combined land area is 1,000 times the land surface area of the Earth. That's a big number. When the New World was discovered and sort of, in some loose sense, added to the Old World, an increase in the territory which was available for the world economy. Okay. That's one of Okay. All right. So maybe this will actually last. So the world was a 50% increase, and that had a profound impact on history. Imagine what a factor of 1,000 again. And we don't stop there, because there's lots of asteroid and cometary materials other places in the solar system. Take that into account, you get another factor of 1,000 for a total 1 million times the land surface area of the Earth. Now, that's material resources. Energy resources, situation is much more favorable. The sun puts out 10 trillion with a T, times the amount of energy currently used by the human race. And so there's lots and lots of energy. Are these resources obtainable? And the answer is yes. So put on my economics hat. This is due to the twin forces of resource exhaustion and technical change, which will eventually push us to use these space resources. To understand how that works, think of the history of the oil industry. The oil industry started, the modern oil industry started about 1859 in the United States, when we got the first real gusher of an oil well in Pennsylvania. The technology to do that was very primitive. It was almost like kicking the ground to get your gusher. Not quite, but you get the idea. After a while, kicking the ground in Pennsylvania no longer gave you gushers. The oil in Pennsylvania was being exhausted, at least the oil that could be obtained that easily. But we also had technical change. Technical change made it easier and easier to get oil from places where you couldn't get it before. As a result of these two things, technical change and resource exhaustion, the oil industry moved to increasingly exotic climes over time. First to places like Texas, then to places like North Slope of Alaska, and more recently we now drill several miles down in, say, the Caribbean Ocean before you actually get to the ocean floor, and then you start drilling to get oil. And this sort of thing, resource exhaustion and technical change, is true for all extractive industries, such as metals and things like that. And if you look at it from the point of the world as a whole, it's true for the planet as a whole, and you'll eventually start pushing into space. Now, let's look at today and see what's actually happening rather than just theory. We've got Elon Musk, who says he's going to send the first humans to Mars in 2024, and he's going to colonize Mars with on the order of 1 million people as a first wave. Then there's Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos is the richest man in the world. He's got a fortune of over 100 billion. He's arguably the richest man in history. And he wants to do basically the same vision as us. He wants millions of people living and working in space. And he wants to house these in O'Neill space settlements. This became very obvious when he came to our conference, our annual conference in 2018, where he was a keynote speaker and he talked about this stuff. And more recently, a couple months ago, he gave a press conference where he said in detail that he wanted to do this. How do we get from here to there? There's a number of pathways of doing this. I have 3 up here. There's more than that. The space solar power pathway, the lunar pathway, and the asteroidal pathway. I'll concentrate on the space solar power pathway because that's what KALAM was particularly interested in. Now, what is space solar power? There are numerous options for doing space solar power, which is one of its strengths. The base case is that you put a large number of solar cells in space. These solar cells collect the sun's energy and convert it to electricity. And that in turn is converted to a microwave beam. The microwave beam is sent down to Earth, where it's received in what's called a rectenna and converted back into electricity and fed into the power grid like the energy produced by any power plant. The energy per unit area is about, depending a little bit on where you are, is about 43 times as much as you get from photocells in the ground. So if you're land constrained like India, this is a pretty big deal. And of course, what you can do is you put these satellites in a 24-hour orbit, so they're revolving around Earth at the same speed that the planet turns under it.
And as a consequence, you're always over one spot with regards to the ground. So you can send a continuous beam from the satellite to your receiver. And you can set it up so that you don't have a problem with the day-night cycle. This is working all the time. And you use the right frequency. It'll go through inclement weather like rainstorms and monsoons. And as a result, you don't have to worry about expensive energy storage. You have a continuous beam. There's some additional benefits. The thing is environmentally benign. The beam's not a problem. You can have naked humans walking through it. You can have birds flying through it. That's because it's not very intense. And it's really nice with regards to land. You can use rough terrain. It doesn't have to be flat land, as long as you don't have a mountain between you and the satellite. As long as you have a straight line, you can use that. And you can also use dual use. The receiver is sort of like chicken wire. It means sunlight goes right through it, and you can put agriculture under the receiver. And it produces almost no carbon dioxide. And as a consequence, that would not only solve your energy problems, because there's enough energy in space. If you only bring a small fraction of that down, that'll give you enough electricity to solve all of your problems on Earth for a long time. And because it doesn't do much in the way of carbon dioxide, it also greatly mitigates climate change. The beam is such that you can send it to virtually any place in the world. And the implications for energy independence are really great because you can not only build these, if India was building these, you could not only take care of your energy problem, you can export it because you can send the beam anywhere and become a major energy exporter. Here's an example of one design. This is the Space Solar Power Alpha design that John Mankins came up with. You have the solar cells, and they're beaming stuff down to Earth. Which leads us to the KALAM NSS initiative, which was mentioned by Dr. Pomeroy earlier. The history of this was in 2007. KALAM came to the United States and made an address at the Boston University where he said, okay, space solar power is cool, let's have international cooperation to build these things. And this led to a number of discussions, particularly in 2010, between people in the National Space Society and some of KALAM's friends in KALAM and people in India. And we came up with the KALAM National Space Society Initiative to build these things. This is myself giving KALAM the Von Braun Award at our 2013 conference. It's our most prestigious award. KALAM worked with Von Braun early in his career and was very happy to get this award. Here, I and KALAM are talking at the conference. We're talking about putting together this joint statement, a copy of which is distributed to everybody here when they registered. And this basically called on doing international cooperation to build these things. Originally, it was going to be the United States, Japan, India, and the UK, and add other countries later. KALAM didn't live much longer, and so that sort of killed the initiative. However, things have changed. In 2013, for example, the United States was not doing anything in the way of research on space solar power. And here's the situation today. We have two programs in the United States. One is $178 million to be spent over a period of 2 years, 2019 and 2020. And the second program is $40 million for this year. We'll go up to like 50 or 60 million next year. China is at about 30 to 40 million in 2019. They plan to have a commercial satellite by 2015. Japan is at about 5 million. So if you put together the United States, Japan, and India, which is sort of what KALAM wanted to do, it's much more doable today than then. What can India contribute? There's two obvious things. One, we have frequency allocation in the UN to bring this energy down to Earth. And India has a lot of gravitas at the UN. So if Japan the United States and India went in and pushed the UN for frequency allocation, that would help a lot. The other thing is India has a lot of very talented engineers who work at much lower wages than in the United States. So if we get them employed on this, that might make the difference with regards to making this economically viable. Now, what does this have to do with the original problem? A successful space solar power program, let's define it as something where you're providing a significant fraction of the Earth's electricity, and it's economically viable. That would create a market in space for the materials and the parts to make space solar power satellites. Initially, you're bringing all these parts up from the Earth, but you have to fight Earth's gravity to do that. And if you get materials from, say, the moon, the amount of energy it takes to launch something off the moon is 1/20th the amount of energy it takes to launch something off the Earth. As a consequence, there's a huge demand once you have a market for doing that. And there's sort of a general consensus that you start building these parts increasingly from lunar and maybe asteroidal materials. And as a result, you will get in space both a very large manufacturing capability and cheap energy. You've got cheap energy because if the energy is cheap enough to sell on Earth, it's going to be really cheap in space. And that, in turn, opens up the resources of the solar system in a general sense, because you can use those capabilities to produce just about anything. Now, let's take a brief look at the lunar path for using the resources of the solar system. America plans to return to the moon within 5 years. We just announced that a couple of months ago. And one of the things we're going to do when we get to the moon is to investigate the use of those resources for a number of purposes. One is to produce rocket fuel, because one of the things we've discovered on the moon in the recent past was water. If you disassociate water into H2O, that's hydrogen and oxygen make a great rocket fuel. And so the first thing you do with that rocket fuel is you use it to refuel rockets that go to the moon to come back, which makes it a lot cheaper. But the next thing you do is there's a number of studies that say one way to go to Mars a lot cheaper is to send your rocket near the moon, refuel it using lunar rocket fuel, and then go to Mars from there. And once you start doing that, you've got a substantial capacity on the moon for using lunar materials to do something useful. And you start doing the same thing for other things besides just rocket fuel. And that in turn means building parts for space solar power satellites. And you can maybe make the difference of making those economical. As a consequence, you get space solar power business, and it's sort of like the original situation where you create a path to the resources of the solar system as a whole. The asteroidal path is somewhat similar. There are several companies that have indicated interest in mining the asteroids. In November 2015, U.S. government passed a law granting American citizens the right to mine asteroids. These asteroidal materials could provide the parts for space solar power satellites, similar to the use of lunar materials, and thus create a path to the resources of the solar system. Space solar power is not necessary to get to the resources of the solar system. It's certainly useful because it's such a big industry if it works out. If it doesn't work out, then it just takes a little bit longer to do things. Other possibilities is just use the lunar and asteroidal water for rocket fuel for moving things around in cislunar space. There's also talk of helium-3 on the moon, which might be a great fuel for fusion reactors. And there's a lot more helium-3 on the moon than there is on Earth. There's also platinum group metals. Some of the asteroids are very high concentrations of platinum and other metals of that type. And there's good reason to believe that there's platinum on the moon as a consequence of asteroids hitting the moon over a period of time. The platinum, which is mined on the Earth, is almost entirely taken from places where asteroids have hit us in the past. So that's entirely plausible. There's also space manufacturing, which is now growing fairly rapidly. The early steps are being done on the space station, and these are proving quite well, particularly when you take into consideration the possibility of 3D printing, which means you don't need large industrial capacity in space in order to make a lot of products. And you build that up over time, and eventually you get to exploiting the resources of the solar system as a whole. Now, all this can be made in the long term, as was pointed out by Bezos and others, in ways which really help the Earth environment and return the Earth to what it was environmentally before the Industrial Revolution. And that's, you take all your heavy polluting industries and you put them in space, and so you don't have them on Earth. And return the Earth to a really nice place as far as the environment is concerned. All this also has very important implications for the balance of power between nations. If one nation or group of nations controls the resources of the solar system outside of Earth, then they will in time control the vast majority of the economic activity of the human race. And if that's true, they will be in a position to dominate the Earth both economically and militarily, which suggests the need for international cooperation, pretty much for the same reasons that Kalam was talking about international cooperation for space solar power. This is the sort of thing that I'm sure if Kalam was around now, he would agree with this concept, because Kalam's a very big picture sort of guy, and this is a very big picture. The solution to our original problem, poverty of the human race. Use the vast resources of space to smash, and I mean smash, the resource constraints of Earth. Restore the American dream, this time not just for Americans, but for all humans. And create a future with a dramatically higher standard of living for everybody, bring them up at least to what is the United States today, if not higher, including the people not just in the United States, but in India and elsewhere, and create a prosperous, hopeful future for all of humanity. Questions? Yes.
So you really believe American government will agree with the statement?
What did you say? Yes, I believe you would. In fact, we actually talked about some. And his view was...
No, I'm talking about American government would support those statements. US government will not support that.
I think the U.S. government would support a lot of it. In any way, so what? I'm going to convince them. We are pushing to convince the U.S. government and other people that this is the way to do it. That's one of the reasons I'm here. Anybody else?
What about the cost angle? I'm not sure I got an idea of the ballpark cost of doing these things.
Well, we're talking about over a period of time, so basically you're doing it in a way which is profitable so that the costs are paid for out of the profits. If you can build space solar power satellites which are profitable, then that takes care of your costs. So you have a business case for it. And if you can do that, then you can do other profitable things by using these resources to do things. So the case, what you really want to do is set it up in a way so that each major step you make a profit. And in that way, costs take care of themselves.
Because the numbers you had of 120 million and 5 million and so forth, didn't seem to be enough to make this a reality.
No, that's just what we're doing now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So would it be in the billions of dollars, presumably?
Yeah, before it's over with.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, and I'll see the rest of my time. Yes.
We use certain methodology to create electricity
from the solar energy. I want to know whether we adopt the same technique in the satellite or on the moon or asteroids. What is the methodology is the same as we use on the Earth. Sometimes we use concave mirror. They twist the concave mirror and then get the sunlight, and then it is focused on a particular point, and then it is converted into electricity. I want to know what methodology we adopt when we produce electricity in the space. Is the same methodology or different?
I don't quite understand your question. Oh, you have solar cells in space, and they generate electricity the same way solar cells would on Earth. And then you take the electricity and convert it to microwave, and then use that, beam that down to Earth where it hits a rectenna, which is a receiver, which is designed to take energy, which is microwave, and convert it back into electricity. This is all known technology at this point. They do that, you can do that now. The real issue is doing it in a way which is cost effective. Riley?
Sir, is spending about $1 billion worthy enough, knowing the fact that we will be able to get only a percentage of resources back to Earth?
What was the question again?
Is it worthy enough to spend $1 billion or more than that, knowing the fact that we can only get a percentage of resources back?
What's she asking?
Is it worthy enough to spend so much, knowing the fact that we can get back only a certain percentage of the resources back to Earth?
Well, it's a matter, look, I'm an economist by training for the most part. I have some background in engineering and physics. But yeah, it's a matter of, can you do it in a way which is profitable? Okay, if you can make money, then you can do it. Yes.
Sir, in the presentation, the mining and all of that was large scale. Like, can we go small, like microbots, and like we use microbots to do the same work that we want to do in a large scale, on a very small level? All the manufacturing, digging and everything on a smaller scale. Go small instead of going big. Is it viable?
Yeah, to begin with, but look, you could probably use that to maybe mine resources on the moon or something. But look, we're talking about future of humanity, and that's a big thing. And if you're going to make everybody relatively rich, that's a big thing. Now, you can do things on the small scale and maybe make money, and then if that's the case, then you expand it, okay, until you're making a lot of money, and you're solving a big problem. Yes?
Thank you, Mark.
Good evening, sir. So how do you transport such big structures to space?
You transport them in pieces and assemble them in space.
How many joints do we have? Because the diameter, as I heard it, it was around 2 kilometers. So how many joints, is it possible to have so many joints for such a big structure?
Yes, you take, anyway, there's already ways to do that. The space station was assembled by a lot of different launches. And you can do this. You basically extrude beams and stuff from, you take a payload, and this would be, say, a beam, which is, you stuff it in a payload bay. When you get into space, the beam then stretches out, and you get what you need.
Is it similar to the docking and rendezvous? Like how two parts join?
Yes. You assemble things in space by taking the various parts up by several different missions and then assemble them in space.
Thank you.
Do we have time? Thank you, Mark. and thank you for inspiring the coalition for space-based solar power. And beyond just the ROI for the resource payback, but the talent pipeline and the dare to dream aspects. When she was asking about miniaturization of the robots, I mean, if you look at iSpace and lunar colonization, a few of the smaller lunar rovers, were there any other impacts that Abdul Kalaam mentioned to you during your talk that he wanted to see from the space-based solar power avenue?
Well, he was particularly interested in, first of all, getting electricity cheaply and on a large scale, because India needs it badly, and the world as a whole needs it. But he was also looking at this as a way of doing an international project that's a big scale and would help bring peace to the world, because we're doing something together which is of massive importance to society. So he was very interested in that as well. Any other questions? Okay. Okay.
Thank you. We had to adjust a few things around. I'll tell you very briefly. We were going to have a presentation from the Defense Research and Development Organization by someone who had worked very closely with Dr. Abdul Kalaam. But he got called away by duty because whatever missile or whatever they are testing had a problem. But I saw in the news that whatever it was actually launched. So he got called away. Then we had Professor or Lieutenant General P. Ravishankar of the IIT Madras very kindly offered to take that place and give a presentation on his perspectives on indigenous defense production. Unfortunately, yesterday his mother got taken ill to hospital, so we had to shift that. However, we have readjusted that. So we now we're going to shift gears completely from the extreme technology aspects to where this is actually used in the villages. So we have a very good presentation from the Swami Vivekananda Rural Development Society. They run over 800 schools in 800 single teacher schools in villages where that is the only school in Tamil Nadu. So this is a huge organization. It is the only means of education for 800 times 30 students every day. We will discuss how they do this. It's quite a revelation. So please. And after his presentation, we will have a break. And then we'll have a panel to discuss this rural self-reliance and all these things with all the perspectives that we have got. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sri Rajkumar is the coordinator of the Swami Vivekananda Rural Development Society Single Teacher Schools.
Thank you, Narayan Komaraji, for giving an exhaustive welcome address to single teacher schools. Well, I am Rajkumar. I represent single teacher schools. It's a project of Swami Vivekananda Rural Development Society. And I am associated to this organization for the past 2 years. I am getting in touch with the lot of philanthropic individuals and corporates in the society. So one day after I stepped in, I just, before me go to the slides, I just wanted to tell you a few things about what is single teacher school and who are there in the board, who all being there in the board and who since how long they have been associated to this project. Like Swami Vivekananda Rural Development Society was a dream come true project, which has been blessed with by Swami Dayananda Saraswati Swamigal. And a founder, Sri Vedantam Ji, is a social worker, and he has been in and out traveling, identifying villages to explore more opportunities and getting along with the people there in the society to understand what is the gap between the rural and the urban living. So when he started moving around for the last 40 years or so, and he has found various aspects that is lacking behind in terms of the basic needs, say about education, is one of the major areas where it has been a concern, and that is lacking behind in the villages. Secondly would be the infrastructure, might be the house, what you're talking about, or rather the electricity, what is required, or even the clothing, what we wear. Even though we claim to say like we have farmers and weavers in the rural community, the actual enjoyment happens only in the urban. But whereas the manufacturers or the producers of those products are still lacking beyond on so many aspects in their life. So that's a reason like we have come up with a project called as Single Teacher Schools. It's a unit of Swami Vivekananda Rural Development Society. And as I said, like we have a lot of people in the board who are they are on the corporate front, they are right in the social front. We have auditors, doctors, and eminent people in the industry as well as in the society. So there are about some 20 to 25 people who are there, and they have been associated with us for a very long time with us, since 2006 of inception. And they have been contributing to the society in a very larger way, and they have been bringing in funds to the various corporates and individual philanthropists. Now with that, let me start getting into the PowerPoint presentation. See, as the saying goes by, Swami Vivekananda said, if children cannot go to the school, then the school must go to the children. This is one of the famous quotes that's been given by him. It's very long time, very long years ago. But it's coming into the reality nowadays, the last 10 years or 12 years of time since we started getting into it. See, what is the vision and what is the mission to us? It is to eradicate illiteracy, to prevent child labor, ensure no dropout in the villages. This is one of the major concern in the villages. Like the people doesn't wanted to go to school. The reason behind is there's no proper school, one. And secondly, if at all there's a school, they'll have to walk down to find 5 to 6 kilometers away from the school. And the third thing, if at all they go only for the midday meal. So the government has given a subsidy telling like if you go to the school, you get this, that, food, you get books, you get your uniform and all the stuffs. But at the end of the day, they don't learn anything. They get only for that. So we want to ensure that it is not there. We want to bring down the rate of dropout. Women empowerment, when I go down in depth, I will clarify on that. The basic Medicare to all the villages, like say, we conduct a lot of camps. Medical camps have been conducted in villages. And the medical team, we have a set of people who have been tied up with, and they keep traveling around. And they go to the many villages and see like to identify or screen or give them the best medicines available. So the camps which are like would be cancer camps and eye camps, general camps could be like that. I ensure clean environment to Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, prior to Prime Minister would have started, our Secretary, Shri R.P. Krishnamachari, he is a philanthropist person and he is for a society. And he runs an enzyme factory which is called Tex Biosciences. He had a village, he was very close to a village where the community doesn't have a proper toilet or a bathroom. So the family over there were finding it very difficult, and more the women and the children of the girl children were finding it very difficult. And he started the project a very small way in 2015. Near to this factory, he started building up a toilet and a bathroom. That's how we started. And slowly when we started, we got a lot of responses. There's a lot of good heart people who came forward telling us we could also sponsor for the benefit of the women and children. So that's how we started with that particular thing. On eradication of unemployment in villages through skill development programs. Skill development programs could be of anything, it might be of tailoring, it might be of teaching on the mobile technology, it might be on the small petty works where they can electrical job, a plumbing job, or civil work, anything could be on that. Where we have been training those training the men in the villages. Our vision is to bring in the holistic development of the village, that is through education, health, hygiene, and clean environment. Now, what is single teacher school? Like what we do? It's a unit of Swami Vivekananda, as I said, and we provide a free quality primary education to the villagers and the children. So since 2006, when we started getting into the villages, now we have about 850 schools in the evening, with the classes are connected in the evening between 5 to 8, where one woman will have about 30 children and she will be handling classes for the class 1 to 5. It's only the primary education what we support. And so far we have been, every year we educate about 25,000 and odd children in the villages. And the basic health care, as I said, like it might be of eye camps, cancer camps, women health, general camps, or general medicine camps also would be the part of it, and every month which we do. The clean environment is also one of our objective to bring in the society in a better way, like in terms of hygiene, which where we construct a toilet cum bathroom for the women, for the community under the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan scheme. So this weekend we also do a lot of activities for children. So we also develop the skill of children. We try to bring out the skills of the children which will be published as an article, and we have been circulating those articles to the other children to motivate them and bring down the talents and skills. So this is an annual day celebration which we had last year in the month of March, and we have people here. I just mark it out. She is Dr. Akila Srinivasan. I don't know how much would be knowing her. She is from Sriram Group. She is the managing director of the Sriram Group, and she is one of advisory board member. He is the president, Sri K.N. Krishnamurthy. He is a director from Ashok Leyland. He is the founder, Sri Vedanandji, and he is a secretary, R.P. Krishnamachari. So these are people who have been witnessing the program during the 13th annual day at Vani Mahal. We identify teachers. We identify the best teachers who have been very dedicated and very committed to work. So we select about 25 to 30 teachers every year among the 850. It comes in routines, and we honor them during the program. This honoring program happens, we have been doing it for the last 13 years of time. This gives lots of lot of motivation to the teachers, and they also being very dedicated and committed towards work what they do. So this is an important and a very interesting topic to discuss, and this is the key aspects where we are here. So what is India Development Relief and IDRF? I think Narayana Kamraji is here. Yeah, okay, probably. So IDRF is, the chairman is Dr. Vinod Prakasamji. He is the chairman for IDRF, and he is a photograph which was taken during the program, during the visit to US. What IDRF actually helps or supports single teacher school? They provide a solar panel, because in 2015 or 16 or so, we found there are a lot of villages without electricity. Even now it has the cases. So we approached India Development Relief Fund, and they came forward telling like, yes, why don't you provide solar to the villages? So it was something new for us, and we also been wondering like in what ways that we can help the villagers or other the students in the evening after dark. So what are we going to do, and how they are going to get benefited out of it? So once when the topic is interesting and it's for you. So we have installed panels in the structured buildings where there is an the panel is here. I told you the previous slide. This is the panel which has been installed on the terrace, the panel which has been there kept it up will absorb the solar energy which has been converted, will be saved into the batteries. And the evening when there is no electricity, and when the classroom is when the classes are conducted, the tube lights, it supports about two tube lights and one fan. This is the battery through which the electricity is being converted. This is again a classroom where the students get a benefit of electricity, or rather the solar energy. These are the list of villages where, in support with IDRF, India Development Relief Fund, we have this much of villages we have done the installation of solar. It's a photovoltaic cell, in fact. Say about 55 villages where we have done with support of Vinod Prakasam ji and Narayana Komra ji over here. So these are the villages which is spread across in Kanjipuram and Tirulur districts. And they not only that they haven't stopped themselves from there. They also supported rehabilitation houses, the cost of about 10 lakhs. We had done it upon 5 villages in Kanchipuram district. The reason why we approached on the rehabilitation houses is like when they had a calamity, natural calamity, which has destroyed most of the houses, and because the village doesn't have a proper structured house as we have it in an urban city, and they have no other go. They have to look out for some support or some means of support from the NGOs like us. IDRF is also one of an NGO, and then they also came forward helping us in providing about a 10 lakh rupee, whereby which we have constructed 5 houses. It's a single room with we have a toilet and bathroom on the side of it. And during the inauguration, on every house we also put up a plaque stone which tells about like who's being the sponsor. To like that stone will be laid and they will have the inauguration happening at the time. And the flood relief materials worth rupees 4,000. The basic materials, the basic utensils were given to the villages in support with IDRF. In various villages, not in a single village, it's various villages, and we can just see that we can just read through the names which is given there, like in Tiruvallur and Kanjipuram where there is calamities have happened. Again, IDRF was supported with Swachh Bharat in a village called Sivan Kudal in Kanjipuram district. So the beneficiaries like it to be like a woman who has a girl child, but they are finding it very difficult in moving around in the evening or late in the night. So for those people we have identified and we have started building the toilet cum bathroom. And this is being given not to the community, this is for individual house. So we identify individual houses where there is we have separate team who have been going around identifying those people and find out the background as to why we need to give, whether the beneficiaries are the right ones whom we have identified. So all those background check has been done. Only based on the background check, and we have been providing the toilet cum bathroom to the beneficiaries. So he is a past president and currently he is also an MLA in Mylapore constituency. He is a retired IPS from Dr. Nadraj. I think most of them would be knowing him. During the function, the handing of the beneficiary letters to the beneficiaries. This is the pilot project we have done in a village as a Goba Gas we started up with, but we need to explore more opportunities on this and we need to move forward on this. So as a pilot project about a year ago, we just started and it's working fine and it's being very well used by the teacher there. So apart from education, what are the other activities that you do along for the development of the children? Or rather, how do you bring out the skills of the children? One of them is sports. So we conduct sports. Sports at various villages. We call the corporate, like it's a turbo energy Jasraji, who's an executive. So he is the executive director of operations who came down and gave trophies and medals to the winners. As I told you, Koni is one of a person who have been contributing to single teacher school and supporting 20 villages in Kanjipuram district. And they gave about, and they were also one of the key people like who have been supporting sports to a very larger extent in terms of they have been calling about 300 to 400 children every year. And they conduct a sports meet at a training center. And he is the director HR, Mr. Pri Saranan. And Dr. Nataraj, as I said, like he was there at Coimbatore, and we done a sports at Coimbatore. The competitions that were taking part in the Coimbatore sports meet. And it's an, this is how a DGM from City Union Bank was also a sponsor to single teacher school, where they have adopted few villages in Mayavaram district. So, so he has come down, we have called him and he came down and we were distributing prizes to the children at Mayavaram. She is Dr. K.S. Babai. She is the secretary for Meenakshi College for Women, which is in Kodambakam. And with her support and with support from Lions Club, they have constructed about 13 single teacher school classrooms in Tiruvallur districts. So they went down and they went on a surprise visit to the villages and they found, why don't we do a classroom, since single teacher school doesn't have a structured classrooms as such, because either they have it in rent or they use a open space where there's a teacher's own premises. Why don't we do a classroom sort of a project to single teacher school? So that came an idea, and they identified villages where there is a need for a classroom and where there is an electricity is provided or the photovoltaic cell which is provided, and the available space should be there by which the construction of 13 classrooms came successful with the help of Dr. B.S. Bhavai. Cultural activities as a part of a program in sports, we also conduct cultural activities to exhibit the talents of the young children. Yoga is one of an additional activity which we do on the weekends. Yoga has been taught. We have yoga trainers who travel around the villages and they teach on the basic asanas, which is very much important for the children because the children need those activities to be done every day as a part of an exercise. So that has been one of our the simple asanas which have been taught to the children. Since we have about 850 teachers in single teacher school, training those teachers was a challenge in the initial days. Because we need to travel to village, train them. So we found a solution to the problem and we came up with a training center which is in Tiruvallur, which can hold about 600 teachers at one point of time. It's a very huge training center. This is a training center. We have about 5 classrooms in the training center where 50 can be accommodated in each session. And the subjects like English, Math, EVS and Tamil is being taught. These are the 4 subjects which have been taught, and the teachers are trained on these subjects. We have a subject experts coming from the schools in the city, like we have Jayagopal Garodia who's coming down. G.K. Shetty is one of the school. Another is the Sri Hindu Vidyalaya is one of the schools. These are 3 schools where we are tied up, and the teachers who also been a part of the framing curriculum for the government. Like Samachi is the government syllabus which is being framed, and they are also the part of the panel. And they come down and train the teachers in such a way like they can make it more comfortable and they are more confident in teaching the students. This is an outlook of the training center. So we have a Tiruvallur statue there. This is a classroom. This is a classroom where teachers are being assembled and they conduct classes in the weekends. Mostly it comes in the month of, in the weekends like Saturdays or Sundays, we call about 200 teachers every week and train them. So it is about 800 teachers are being covered in a month. So ensure that all the teachers are there and they are also being trained well. The teachers were getting trained, the classrooms. Education to games is also an important aspect, because education should not go just like that, telling this as that is given in the textbooks or notebooks. We cannot just run through like that. It should also be more interactive or responsive. It should also be more. It should reciprocate. You talk and they also need to understand, they also talk back and you need to understand what they're asking. That is very important in education, because if it doesn't have that sort of an education, it will go dry. You will not understand the concept, you will be more bored to come to the classes, because most of the time it happens in the evening, because they go to school in the morning, they come back in the evening tired. When the playway method of teaching is not happening in the village, then rather to the students, it will become more monotonous for them to come down for education. So Aparajita Foundation is they are from Mumbai. From Madurai, and they have been training teachers on the basics of teamwork. That is one. Integration is one, and connecting people. So these are the basic concepts of this foundation, and they have been training single teacher school teachers for about they are doing it for several months. We have done about 7 sessions so far in the last 2 years of time. So they come every quarter and they train those teachers, and they also keep updating on the new activities on a every quarter basis. Teachers have been assessed. They have been assessed on the subjects what they teach. We would also like to know where do they stand and whether they are training the students the right way. The classes which are being conducted we have a master trainer. She is a master trainer. In fact, she is also a president awardee, Dr. Rajama. She is also in a syllabus panel on framing of various syllabus for the Samachir as well as for the CBSE Delhi. So she is one of our a close connect and associate to single teacher schools, and she has been training us for the last 5 years of time. And she ensures that on every 6 months or every 4 months once she comes down to a training center where there's a teacher, she gets interacting with them to understand whether they are comfortable with the subject, what they're handling it. So that is one assessment way of which we determine the quality standards of a teacher. So teacher during assessment, she'll have to explain a subject or rather a topic in front of other teachers, and each one can question them and she can answer back. So we have motivation speak, because motivation is very important for everybody. So without motivation, people will not get themselves charged. So motivation is one of the key things which is very important, and without motivation, people may not be there will not be much of enthusiasm in their regular lifetime. So she is Dr. Akila Srinivasan. She is also one of our trustees in the board, and they are the key sponsor. They hold about 40% of major stakeholders. They are the stakeholders, they hold about 40% market share on the single teacher school, sponsoring about 300 schools in various villages in Tiruvallur and Kanchipuram districts. Some of the other motivation speakers, I just run through the slides. So under health and hygiene, like we have, these are the various camps that have been supported. So I have my president, Shri K.N. Krishnamurthy sir is here. Welcome, sir. So under health and hygiene, these are the camps which have been supported by various corporates like Saint Gobain and JK Fenner. They have been, with the help of them, we are able to move around and get along with the people to conduct 46 camps in the last 2 years of time. And the villages so far screened is about 4,715. The cataract patients and the fundus patients have been taken to the base hospital by Sankaranithralaya. So they have been given a free treatment when they go down to the base hospital. It's in Nongambakam. And the spectacles, like we have a bifocal, and we have a reading problem. They have been provided spectacles. So far they have been, so closely to 2,400 numbers have been given. So this is one of our camps which is successful and which has been continuing to do so for the last 2 to 3 years of time. Cancer screening camp in support with CanCare Foundation Sriram. So the similar like to ICAM, we have been doing these camps for the last 3 years of time. And what has been tested and what has been screened in those camps are like, it's an oral, cervix and breast cancer been identified. And the Dr. Ramanan from, I just show you, when I take to the slide, I'll show you who is Dr. Ramanan. Dr. Ramanan is he's a cancer specialist and he is based out in Kumaran Hospital. And he has a team of people where they come down to the village. They do the screening of the women. And totally so far they have done about, in the last 2 years of time, they have done about in 18 villages. And so many people have been screened, like 85, and the patients detected or 22. So these patients are in whatever level or whatever stages of disease they are in now. So they are taken to the base hospital with the help of CanCare Foundation, and they have been detected. They have been provided all the basic medicines to get themselves, and they have been following it up with the patients regularly. And they also been screened and they also been detected, and although they take them to the any other problems if they have it where they need to be operated. So all those help has been given by Kumaran Hospital. So general medical camps is one. So we are done in these villages like in Gudagarapakam, Vempakam, Alappakam, Pudupat, Mel Maduramangalam, Vadamangalam. So general camps, we just started about a year back, and Saint Gobain is one of our sponsors who has been helping us with general camps. And the screening happens in such a way like they do the blood test and they do check with the blood pressure. And with the help of the blood test, they are able to identify the functioning of the organs. So they also rate the functioning of it. And if there is anything to be done with something which is very serious to be identified or to be rectified, they've been suggesting to the concerned hospital. So that is one of the best camps which have been doing it, and still we are continuing to do so. Hard camp with the help of M. So we're done to all the teachers, of 850 teachers who come down to our training center, and we have done that hard camp very recently. How the screening happens, the high camps, how do they conduct in the villages? The team of doctors and other technicians who come down to the villages, they do the screening of high checkup. The spectacles where they provide, they do it. So once after that has been done, after 15-20 days of time, they go back to the same village, and they also, with the help of a field team, they go and distribute spectacles for the beneficiaries. So he is Dr. Ramanan. He is Dr. Ramanan from Kumaran Hospital. So he is a key person who's the mastermind or who's the brainchild for the project on doing the CanCare Foundation, and he is, with the help of him, we are able to get into many villages to identify the cancer screening. So Madras Medical Mission, they came up with a caravan where they had the basic fundamental machines. With the help of that, they were able to screen with the heart functioning of our heart. The general camps, what I was talking about, like Medol is one of them, and they have been doing screening. A dyslexia program is the other area where we have been training all the teachers there in the dyslexia. This in turn helps the teachers to identify the fast learners and the slow learners. The slow learners are in such a way trained and given proper attention, and they have been identified. And the necessary inputs, what is need to be given to the children is given. They have been made the regular students during the course of time. So we have been doing it every quarterly for the teachers, and if there is an update from the Madras Dyslexia Association, they also keep us updated on the various activities and what all they do in and around the society. Awareness campaigns is also a part of and parcel of our activities in single teacher schools. Last year when we had a Kone Foundation team from Finland, so dengue awareness rally was conducted starting from our training center and went around to the local villages there, street by street. We went down and we gave them awareness, because at the time we had dengue was the talk of a town. Say no to plastic. Zero plastic solution was other campaign which was done in a village called as Maduramangalam in support with Saint Gobind. And this particular zero plastic awareness campaign was done in the 35 villages in and around Kanchipuram in a span of 3 months of time. Swachh Bharat Abhiyan is one of our pet projects, as I told you earlier, like we started this in the year 2015. And this is given us a lot of laurels to us in terms of getting a letter from Prime Minister. So this was something which is very important, and it is also was a key thing which we felt it's very important for us to get it to all the villages in Tamil Nadu. And with the help of the letter what we received, and we had a lot of sponsors from various corporates who came down and started supporting single teacher school to do the project on Swachh Bharat. So far we have done about in 683 families, we have constructed toilet cum bathroom. So the major portion goes with 240 from Lions Club International Foundation, where they sponsored about 86 lakhs. So far we've done up on 68 villages, so far we've done it, and we are in the pipeline of completing another 100 more by end of this month. This was an award which we received from Tirur District Collector during the World Sanitation Day, the month of December. This is a model, and this is how the look and feel of the toilet cum bathroom will be like. So we'll have a tile, we'll have floor tile, the wall tile, the basic requirements, what is required, like we will provide them lighting facilities for them. We provide them a tub which can fill in about 20 liters of water, a bucket, a brush, of water, all the basic needs, like how a city or residential bathroom looks like. The similar model has been carried over in the villages. This is during the inauguration of the 240 toilet cum bathrooms. The Lions Club 324A8 is one of the projects which have done it, and this is a puja which is conducted in the village. Once after construction is over, so we call the sponsor and we tell them like we're going to hand over the toilet cum bathroom to the beneficiaries, and we invite them and we make a formal function and inauguration. We go down to the beneficiaries' place and we do the inauguration. So some of the photographs which is relevant to the inauguration is here. So he is the founder, as I told you, and he is a key person who is in Lions Club, an instrumental person to Lions Club Foundation, and he has, through him we are able to get a support of the 240 toilet cum bathrooms. This is during the inauguration. This Madhavasu Trust is this is being run by Vinod K. Dasri. Vinod K. Dasri of Ashok Leyland, and he has been supporting us to construct 20 toilet cum bathroom every year with a sponsorship contribution of 10 lakhs. And during the inauguration, he is Mr. Sivanesan from Senior Vice President Quality and Sourcing from Ashok Leyland. And these things are possible only because of President, because he's been with the Ashok Leyland for very long years, and he's been associated to the association for last year. Dr. Biswakumar is a neurosurgeon. Dr. Biswakumar is a neurosurgeon, and they also is a part of an Masonic Charitable Trust, and with the help of the trust, we are able to get about 20 toilet cum bathrooms constructed every year in various villages in Tiruvallur. So the handing over function which has happened. Desilting is something which is very important and need to be addressed in water conservation. So as you know, like there is no water, there is no rain in the last couple of years, and people are struggling without water. And we found this is a need of an hour which we need to do it, and we need to carry out in the villages, because the most of the ponds and are being slowly getting demolished, or rather they have been covered and they have been misused. So we felt, yes, we need to do this desiltation project, and we started very recently, about a month back, doing a pond restoration project in Kanchipuram district and Tattalur village. And during the function, we a gathering of the villagers who came down. As I told you, like Dr. K.S. Babai was instrumental in constructing the classroom for the teachers, the classroom for single teacher schools, and conducting classes in the evening. And this has been done through Lions Club 324A1. And during the inauguration, we had Dr. Naresh Agarwal, he is an international president of Lions Club. And we came down to the actual classroom, which is a size of about 240 square feet. The blackboard, the chairs, and everything being provided in that. The flood rehabilitation by Tata was, they provided water, RO drinking water to the families. They identified one particular place where there was a need of water scarcity because of the various reasons when the groundwater level went down. So we provided a RO water to the 2,300 families during the particular time. This is like the Meenakshi College again, they come down every year. Say about 3,000 students visit various villages in the Kanchipuram and Tiruvallur districts, and they also conduct some games and activities, and they also do some cultural activities which motivate the children and make them happy. And at the end of the program, they give them small prizes and gifts to the children. This happens every year in the month of September. So we have been awarded for a best social project by the governor, best NGO award by the Vice Chancellor of Madras University. So before we get into the slideshow, I just brief you about like the key sponsors, or the key people who have been instrumental in supporting single teacher schools over various years, for several years. So one should be like, it is Sriram Group of Companies. They have been sponsoring about 300 villages in Tiruvallur district. And the second key people would be the IDRF, India Development Relief Fund. They have been sponsored about 30 lakhs in supporting photovoltaic cells and construction of toilet cum bathroom and rehabilitation houses. Yeah.
We are able to quickly get the slides, sir, but it was not with the background.
That's okay, that's okay. No, can you just scroll down? Yes, manually can scroll down, right? So few of the articles which has been published in newspapers, it's about single teacher schools, which has been displayed here, like in Deccan Chronicle, Times of India, So next. Fine. So the corporate visit, as I told you, like Dr. Akila Srinivasan was one of the person who was initially she came down to visit our schools. Secondly would be like a sponsor from IndusInd Bank Mumbai, CSF South, she came down. So third thing would be like a person from, a secretary from India Motor Parts and Accessories, Mr. Kalyan Raman, who came down to the villages and he is interacting with the students. And we had people from Sterling Software, the auditors who came down, so just a little slow. So who came down and they also been interacting with the teachers and the students during the visit. So next one. Rotary Club of Chennai East, Mr. Ramakrishnan was the chairman for Global Grant. So he visited a few of the villages and to understand the functional of single teacher schools. Next. Rotary Club of KK Nagar. Rotary Club of KK Nagar was supporting us with the solar lamp and the standing solar lamp and the desk during the function. There's a handing over function which has happened. So next one. And the Finland team of Kone who came down to India and we took them to a few of the villages which have been sponsored by them. So next. Yeah, the handing over a desk by the director, HR, Mr. Saravanan, to the villages which have been adopted by them. Go on, next. Next. Yeah. As I told, like a few of the corporates who have been supporting us since inception. So the previous one. So go back to the previous one. It is Sriram group of companies which they sponsor about 30 schools. Tata Trust is about 100 schools. IDRF, as they have been doing it for a very long time, associated. Home Charity Foundation, they have been kind of helping us with the last 10 years of time. St. Gobind, similarly, they have been adopting about 40 schools. So go on, next slide. Text Biosciences is a secretary's organization and he has been helping us since he is there with us. A few of the corporate like Sterling Software, so just be a little slow, no? Please. Yeah. So IndusInd Bank, the Maverick, the PMI, Inaugural, City Union Bank. Next. Sun Pharma, Madhavasu, on Swachh Bharat. So next. CRI Pumps, Ramco Cements. So next, Arvind Labs. Polaris Banyan, Trivikram Flowtech, they are onto the next. Sundaram BMP is here. Vicon Systems from Bangalore. So go down next. Yeah, few of the corporates like Shyam Tode, Director of PMI Engineering, when he was handing over a check to us, they're contributing about 12 lakhs for the single teacher school for Swachh Bharat and school. Go on next. Similar like City Union Bank was with us for the last 2 years of time and they have been sponsored for 20 schools. Go down. Mayavaram, like we had schools which has been supported by Sri N.K. Muthu, who is the president of Vani Mahal. So next one, sir. The few of the events which I would like to tell you about. YMA is one of our sponsors. We've been supporting 30 schools in Kanjipuram district. So next. During the distribution of desk on a personal front, Dr. Akila Srinivasan has been supporting us for the last 9 months of time and we have distributed about 1,000 desks to various villages and students. So go on next. Next. Ashok Leyland was generous enough in supporting single teacher school by providing a 30-seater bus last year. And this is very much useful to us when picking up and dropping off teachers from one point to a training center to dropping back to a drop point. So next one, sir. Next. City Union Bank, who has been supporting, and he is Mr. Dr. Kamakoti, and he is. So next one. Rotary Club, when they have provided a check to us for in support to solar lamp and desk. So next one. Next, book from YMA, like a Bharaja book was released during August 15 Independence Day in what YMA campus. The next one. So this is a tax exemption certificate, and we also fall under the slab of ATG and Income Tax Act. The next one. So to sponsor a village, the cost which is involved is about 50,000 in a year to run a village with 1 teacher and 30 students. So next one. And we also hold an FCRA certificate from Ministry of Home Affairs, and which is valid till October 31st, 2021. So next. So we appeal to you, like the corporates and individuals need to be kind enough in supporting the villages to the development of a society. So next. Thank you. This is what. Thank you. Thank you.
Questions on the realities of the villages. So there was one question, I think she just stepped up.
Yeah.
She says central government has ordered that every child should have a school within 1 kilometer. Is that right? And is the government not providing those schools?
So the government provides. Yeah, please.